Right.
Okay.
Right.
So yeah, like Boo, tell us. See, your dad. How did everything start here?
So Pop basically, he had the most famous band in Memphis in the mid 50s to the late 60s. When he got back from the war in 55, I think he was in the Korean War. He started a band. He had roots in jazz, but Memphis, wasn't a really big jazz town. It was probably more blues. So when he assembled his band, it was kind of like a mix of jazz and blues. It's like early R&B is what it was. So he started playing. When Elvis brought Priscilla home, he played the party. It was a New Year's Eve party. He just played everywhere. Played on Beale Street. Played at the Manhattan Club, which was a famous all-white supper club where all of the rich guys and stuff hung out. And he was actually the inspiration for Stax moving to soul and R&B music, because Packy Axton, the son of Estelle Axton, one of the founders, he played fiddle, and Stax was going to be a country, it was going to be like a more rockabilly type of thing, until Packy went to West Memphis and saw the Willie Mitchell combo and was like, I think we need to do some of that stuff with the horns and the rhythm, and so that's how even this studio, even High Records and Royal, when it started as a rockabilly label in '57 with Bill Black, the Bill Black combo. Bill Black was Elvis Presley's bass player, so there were musicians and engineers at Sun Studios, and they were trying to do their own thing. So they got Joe Coogie, who owned like all the record shops in Memphis and the jukeboxes and stuff. It was Pop Tunes Records. They got him to put the money up to buy this building, and it opened in '57. And the first few records it was all rockabilly. And Pop got here. Willie Mitchell got here in 1959 and started recording. His first record, I think it was called The Crawl, was his first big record, and it was like, it was kind of, to me it was early R&B because it's kind of bluesy, but kind of soulful too. If you hear it, you hear all these influences and stuff. And so eventually, Willie Mitchell started selling more records than everybody by the mid-'60s. And that's when he, kind of started taking over as an engineer and stuff and producer. So.
And also created not only a very unique sound, but also one of the main creators of a musical style later called soul.
Soul.
Maybe just show us around. Maybe tell us, meanwhile, how everything went along. How, like a jazz musician with bluesy influences, comes up with soul. Like German people sometimes even don't understand. But the one is they thank you for different brands. Maybe tell us, how did he come up with the sound and also with the style of music?
Yeah, it was. He played for Lionel Hampton and played with Charles Lloyd and all these jazz guys. But like I say, Memphis was kind of famous for, it was blues and stuff all around him that had more, blues is more about the feel in the rhythm, and jazz is kind of it's mental. It's you listen to jazz, but you dance to the blues. So he he like put those two things together, and there came soul.
Okay. What do we see here?
So this is the Royal Studios recording floor. The place, it used to be a silent movie theater. That's why the floor slopes. And it's looked like this since '69, when Pop came here, there were like no black engineers, back in the 50s and early 60s, and every time he tried to engineer, it's like, no, black guys don't do that. And so I think it was about 65 or 66, he had sold enough records to start having some say-so. And the first thing he did is like, if you don't let me engineer the next, record, I'm leaving. So they were like, okay, really. So when he started engineering, he experimented with the sound because he was always trying to be different. He never wanted his records to sound like anybody else's records. So he put, all the stuff on the walls and the ceiling, and he got it like he wanted it in '69. And Tired of Being Alone was like, that was probably the first record that he had the sound perfected. And you can listen to Willie Mitchell instrumentals and even Al Green's records before Tired of Being Alone, like I Can't Get Next to You and stuff like that, and you can kind of hear the progression of the sound. So if you listen to that and then Tired of Being Alone and Let's Stay Together, the sound it gets tighter and more in your face. And this is one of the reasons why.
How did you make it? Maybe show us around a little bit.
This is let's see, that's Al Green's microphone in here. I don't know if you want to come in, but the mic with the 9 on it is this is the mic that Al sang all of his hits on. Let's Stay Together, Still in Love with You, Here I Am, Take Me to the River, everything. Done, even his newest stuff, I Can't Stop, and all the stuff was done. So it just sits here in the corner, and every now and then we'll let somebody else sing on it. I think there's been maybe 4 people, or maybe only 4 or 5 other people we've allowed to sing on this mic. One, Cody Chesnutt, and Angie Stone more recently. Who else? John Mayer sang on it, and Buddy Guy sang on it. And that's it.
It's not the worst line. Okay.
So this is the site of the original control room. The control room was here from 57 till 74. And when the 24 track machines and stuff came out in 74, they built a state-of-the-art, at the time, control room upstairs. And the control room stayed up there until 88, I believe. Keith Richards was the last major record done upstairs. So in 89, we came back down in this space and kind of renovated it, put in a bigger console, which is still a vintage board. This board is from 77. And we still use all of the vintage equipment, the UA 1176, Teletronics, LA2A, Pultex, all these things were used to make all of those old records, and we still use them. I'm mixing later on. I'll use all this stuff today. So we've integrated the best of the old, the vintage gear, and we mix it with the new gear. We use Pro Tools HD. We still record 24 track. So we marry the two together, and it still sounds great, even when we do stuff straight into Pro Tools, because of the preamps and stuff. It sounds analog. You can't, and then we mix everything. We only use Pro Tools we use it just like it's a tape machine. So we record into it and mix it, just play the stuff right out of it back into the board, back into the analog console. And that's what makes the sound. It just, anytime you put things into analog, it's gonna sound better to me. So.
Maybe one day you just mentioned like Keith Richards, like a guy like him. Like how do you see Keith Richards? Like a guy like him, like a Rolling Stone, could do anything he wants to.
Yeah.
Showing up here and what makes him come here? How is it?
It's because people come here because of the magic. Because when you come into the studio, it has an energy and has a spirit to it. I mean, you go in commercial studios and it's like a hospital. There's like no energy, you have to take it with you. But when people come to Royal, you can there's an indescribable feeling that, I grew up here as a kid, and every time I would come back here, it was it felt like some kind of little magical experience. I was a kid, I don't know what it was, I just knew I liked to be here, and people come here and get inspired. So a lot of times we'll have an artist book the studio for 3 days. Or a major artist is like, okay, we're going to come to Memphis, we're going to do 2 songs, and they end up staying 10 days and doing 10 songs because the studio it has a magic to it, and people come here to get that. And, it's why Keith Richards comes, and Paul Rogers and Boz Scaggs. It's like living history. It's not a museum.
Maybe another question, like if you, especially I start like this. I think Paul Rogers, is he Brit or is he American? He's British. Like I start this way, like same like Rod Stewart, and maybe. Why are the British so crazy about R&B?
British are very smart. It's the same reason why the Rolling Stones, came to seek out Muddy Waters, and because they, the essence of the music is here, and it's not just playing the guitar at your house. It's all about coming to the place. Memphis, Mississippi. These places have a energy. And when you come, then you're like, okay, now I get it. It makes sense. And places inspire people. So the Brits smart. They study the music, and then they get smart enough, like, we can imitate it, but we should go there, because then we'll get what the people got that made this music that we like. Those people were here, so when you come here, you get it.
Maybe like now I think the 80s, 90s, different times, but now if you see just recently, I mean, even for me it's stunning that now you see like Amy Winehouse, the craze around her, now Adele getting Grammys, and she's doing what you've been doing
here all the time. Yeah, people, I think that we have, I think that music went through its transition, and a lot of people doing everything electronic. People were getting rid of Wurlitzers and Rhodes keyboards and trading them in for Yamaha DX7. I think that we've went through all of these modern things, and people are just getting back to the original, going, this modern stuff is cool, but something about these old records that, they can make you cry, they can make you laugh, and they hit you in your heart. You can feel it in your soul, and that's why I think a lot of people are trying to get back to real music real songs. You know, the electronic stuff is cool. You know, you go out, you dance, you party, and you forget about it. But the real music is timeless, and it just lasts forever. And every time you hear it, you know, it invokes the same spirit and the same magic that, you know, it did from the first time you heard it. So there's something about real music that's timeless. That's, I think, why these people are trying to get back to that. I don't blame them.
You work here and love the way music is recorded here.
Well, it's the feel. You can take a Pro Tools song all day, do your chopping, your editing. It's not going to come out like the tape or vinyl. Like I said, it has a warmer feel. It's a fatter sound. You have the free range to do whatever you want with analog. You can take it, you can blend it, you can make it your own. Pro Tools you do not, because it's a sound that somebody has put into a computer. It's not the sound that you get coming from your drummers or your pianist or your guitarist or your bassman. It's and a lot of that has to do with the musicians. If you got good musicians with a unique sound or a unique sync, then you have a platinum record, you have a gold record. But if you have great musicians that aren't really in sync with each other, you it sounds good, but it's not hitting you home. It's not a song that you want to sit down, like a Marvin Gaye song or Aretha or Al Green, that you want to sit down and listen to, just play the song over and over again. It's not that type of thing.
Hey, what like your friends, people you go to school with, you hang out with, what do you think if you say, yeah, we have to listen to Aretha Franklin, Al Green, like to this kind of music? How is their perspective on this kind of music?
Their perspective is it's old, it's not new age. But that's just, a lot of people just grow up in a generation where they think digital is going to run the world. Eventually, everything is going to come back around. History does repeat itself. However it goes, we're using CDs now. In the next 5 to 10 years, we might be going back to vinyl, using vinyl. And as a matter of fact, I started like a small vinyl collection, and it sounds, if you listen to a CD, then you listen to vinyl, you get the little in it. That's that, you know it's an album. You know it's something about that you just love. You
What like your collection? What music do you collect?
All kinds. You can't just be versatile to one type of genre, because if you are, then you're not listening to music. You're listening to, how do I put this? You're not really getting a feel of music. You have to listen to everything to understand music, I would think.
Tell me 5 of your records that you really love, that you would never give away.
Tina Turner, I have Tina Turner, Jimi Hendrix. I have a couple of comedy records, as a matter of fact. I would never give away a vinyl collection. I would give away a CD collection, but I would never give away a vinyl collection, because vinyl is it's a lot harder to press, and it's just that sound. It's like you can never get away from that sound. And like I said, with Pro Tools or a CD, you take an album from the 50s or 60s, you listen to it now, and then you try to redo it with new things. It's not going to come out the same. A lot of people have tried to take old things and put them into Pro Tools and make it new. It never turns out the same, and it never comes. It's not really what you want it to be. It's, you got to have something that's going to make you want to get down on the floor and just cry. You got to have that. If you don't have that, then you're not listening to music. You're listening to a track with somebody singing or somebody talking on it, rather. Music comes from within. Music is your pain and your sorrow just released. It's not something that you do because it's a hobby, or you have to if you're going to do music, you can't put 0.5% into it. You have to put your whole thing, your whole everything. You have to put your last bottom dollar on the line for it, because that's what music is. You can ask people from the 50s and 60s what they think about music today. I'm not too sure what they might say, but they might say that they like the old sound.
Cool, I must say the same you do.
So
sounds very right. Another question, because there's so many questions, I started losing it. Like, also people very relevant to me, like Ike and Tina Turner. Do you remember Ike and Tina Turner being here as a kid?
Not as a kid. I recorded Ike after I was an adult. So I do remember interacting with a lot of like famous, like when the Doobie Brothers would come to town, we'd always go to dinner with them and stuff in the 70s. The Temptations, they would come to the house. My mom and aunt and my grandmother would all cook, and you know, they'd just be at the house hanging out, you know, and then they go do their concert. So I had all these, you know, magical experiences that, you know, I don't want to say it was normal. I mean, I knew it was cool, but I don't know if I realized how cool it was until I, you know, got older. But I was very fortunate to meet, you know, all of my favorite artists and singers and stuff, you know, the Jacksons, Casey and the Sunshine Band, just everybody. Even George Clinton and my dad were good friends. I didn't even know. And he showed up at the studio one day about 10 years ago, and my dad was leaning back on the desk, had his feet up, you know, and George Clinton comes in and, you know, shakes the hand, and my dad, so I've got a picture somewhere of Pop going, who? And he's like, George, because he hadn't seen him in 30 years. So it's been a cool experience. And then we still have people that, you know, sometimes famous people that come here and just to see it, you know. The Black Keys came to, you know, like, couldn't believe it was still here. So.
And maybe just to finish into like next productions that are coming up, maybe something that you think or that you weren't expecting. Maybe even mention the French Girls we had in French television. And Patrice the same, like young dudes.
Patrice, yeah, awesome, yeah. It's you know, it has been such a good journey. Just never know. Like we did Wu-Tang Clan, they just called up, you know, are you guys booked next month? And I'm like, for you? No. Come on, you know. We have a lot of good stuff. You know, you never really know. There possibly will be a Bobby Blue Bland record, maybe a Bobby Womack record. We're talking to a lot of different people, but you just never know who's gonna call. I mean, it's been an interesting year so far. With Axel Red, Belgian French artist, amazing voice, you know, like 8 or 9 albums. Just one day calls, hey, we want to come to Royal. We've done French, Bernard Lavier. He was amazing. Just called one day out of the blue, you know. We get a lot of people. The Marty Pello from the Wet 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 band. We did their first record here. I think I was 14 or 15, and they were like, you know, 19, 20. So it was so funny because the studio, you know, in South Memphis is, you know, it's an old, you know, it can be a rough neighborhood. It's not as bad as it used to be, but it used to be really rough in the 80s. And when the Wet 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 band came, they weren't famous yet. Nobody knew them, you know. So the first day, I go outside and they have the beach towels out on the grass and they're suntan. And there are all these like winos and stuff walking by going, damn, those white dudes are crazy. And I came out like, what are y'all doing, man? Like, oh man, we're tan. I'm like, man. So it was so funny. So we became really close because they were here like 2 months or something. And then they finally hit, and when Marty did his first solo album, he came, he came to do 2 songs. I think he did 18 or something. So it's, it's, you never know who's going to be on the other end of the phone, so our door is always open and available. We do a lot of, we do a lot of local acts, and we do a lot of people that are up and coming and, not famous. So we treat everybody the same. We treat everybody like family. So that's how my dad was, and that's how I'm going to be.